So we all know that lighting is obviously one of the most important components of cinematography. It's really what's going to separate you from being just another event videographer. That being said, it is so easy to make your videos look super unnatural if you're not doing it the right way. So let's use this really easy example that I have for us today to uncover why these don't work and why this does. So I'm only going to use one light for this example, and that is going to be my Aperture 300X. So clearly something here in this example is looking super unnatural. The levels of my face are remaining the same, but it just doesn't feel right. It almost feels sourcey. The term sourcey is basically a filmmaker's way of saying it looks like you're trying to light this scene and it looks very unnatural. You definitely do not want your audience to feel like your scene was being lit by a film crew and by artificial lighting. The second that your audience starts to notice the lighting in the scene is the second that the audience is going to be ripped away from the storyline. So obviously that's a bad thing, and we want to avoid our images looking sourcey. So there are a few ingredients that will lead to a sourcey image, and most of them are going to stem from where you are motivating your light from. So if you're a beginner and you're unfamiliar with the term motivating your light, you might want to watch my video that I made called Simply Light Any Scene with this simple method. I think it was called. Real quick, motivating light is a light source you want to feel like is lighting the scene, and you want the lights that you're using to help resemble that light source. So in this scene that you're looking at in particular, we are trying to motivate the light from the windows. It is naturally coming from the windows, and we want to motivate where we're putting our artificial lights by what that window is telling us to do. So one of the main ingredients of having a sourcey image can come from the levels of your light. And by levels, I mean how bright is your key light, your artificial light that you put into the scene compared to the light that you're trying to motivate from in the overall ambience in the scene. So in this case, if I'm trying to motivate the light from the window that's coming from right here, that light coming from that window is a soft, cool, overcast feeling light. It's not super intense, it's not super bright. And because I'm trying to capture the information and the highlights coming from the windows, because I don't want to blow out my highlights, the scene inside is very dark. And because the ambience in the scene is dark, I have my light way too bright right now. And that is giving it a super sourcey look. It looks like I have a light right here. It doesn't look like the light coming from the window is what's lighting me. So what I can do to make this not look so sourcey is turn down the intensity of my light, which I'm gonna do right now. So that to me is looking natural, but the only issue with this now is that the whole scene, its entirety, is looking pretty dark. But what I'm gonna do now is turn up the exposure values within the actual camera itself to bring up the overall ambience of the scene. And I think I can do that. I think I have enough information to go up in the highlights. So can adjust that now. So boom, dropped an ND filter, brought up the overall ambience in the scene. And my face now looks like it's being naturally lit by the window light and not the actual light itself. But we still need this. It's still doing a ton. As you can see, I'll turn it off real quick. Yeah, like we definitely still need the light, but it's motivated by that window and it doesn't look sourcey anymore. All right, let's look at another example here. Boom, this is looking super unnatural and really sourcey. And the reason of this is because of the direction that the light is coming from. The source we're trying to motivate our light from is our window once again, and the light coming from the window is coming in from this direction. So by putting our light over here and have the light coming from the opposite direction, it's basically just like screaming to our audience, like, hey, like, here's our light, like we're putting it right here. It's also just totally flattening out our image and giving us zero depth, which isn't a good thing. So let's make sure our light is coming from the same direction as the light we're motivating from. So we wanna put our light in a position where it looks like it's still coming from our window, but it's in a position where it's still able to wrap around your subject's face and you're able to get more detail out of the person's face so the audience can see their face, I guess. So rule of thumb for a cinematic image is you always want to shoot into the shadow side of your subject's face, because that is going to give you a ton of depth in your image, and you do that by backlighting your subject. So you always want to take your motivating light and put it behind your subject. So if your light source is looking a little too sidey, you're not liking the contrast ratios, the dark side's feeling a little too dark, you can always add some ambient fill from the opposite side. I personally wouldn't go past this because I tend to like a more moody image with higher contrast ratios. But if this is still too dark for you, you can always add a little bit more, but then your image is gonna start to flatten out and it's gonna start to look like a sitcom. All right, let's look at another example here. So this looks sourcey and terrible, and that's because of the quality of light. And the quality of light refers to how hard or soft the light is. So in this case, the quality of light that is coming from this window, because it's an overcast day, is very soft light coming through that window. And our fixture that we're using here is obviously no longer soft. We're using a very hard source. So because we're using such different qualities of light, we're using a hard light as opposed to a soft light coming through the window, it looks sourcey, it looks like we're trying to light the scene. So to once again match the quality of light coming from the windows, that soft light, I'm gonna put on a softbox, which is just one of many ways to get the soft quality of light, but it's the one I've been using for this example, so I'm gonna throw it back on there, get out of this disgusting light. All right. Back in business, baby. So at the end of the day, your lighting is going to look most natural when it is most closely replicating your motivating light source that you're trying to emulate. So yeah, congrats on taking the time to learn this stuff, because this is truly what's gonna separate you. And I promise you that. Thanks as always for watching, and I love you.